Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. This is an episode of where I am at an event called the Rocky Mountain Adventure Riders. This is back in 2011 in Saguache, Colorado. It's a great riding area. Everyone I've talked to over the years is like, what are you talking about, Saguache? There's epic trails. This is back when early days of me videoing back in 2011, like I said. So you've seen some of the blasts from the past. This is one of those episodes, so episode 6. And sorry, it kind of starts off kind of oddly because, GoPros were new. I'm using the GoPro, and when I turned it on, when I remember turn it on, or batteries go dead and this and that, right? So it's a dual sport event. We would raise awareness for trail usage, although we were all dual sport riders. We all had our bikes plated. I am on an XR650R. That's what I had at the time, so a big thumper, kickstart only. As you see, you were probably like, wow, that trail doesn't look that hard. It's a little bit steeper than it looks, but yeah, you're right, it wasn't that hard. A lot of these dual sport guys and gals, they tend to not be the greatest of riders. Great group of guys, don't get me wrong, and gals, but they tend to be more dual sport orientated, where they're mainly on like a road or Jeep roads and pavement and this and that, kind of like the adventure guys, and they sometimes want to go try the harder trails. So I would lead rides. Note, I'm a fairly new rider at this point myself. I only got the bike in 2010. Before that I was riding street bikes, and I started going to these events. The first event was in 2010 at South Fork, Colorado. And then we picked Saguache, which was actually epic. I don't know why we never went back. I guess the lodging situation was kind of difficult in the camping, and there was this landowner, but their stuff was kind of run down, and I don't know. I guess it was a big deal, but Saguache really loved us and wanted us to come back. I mean, I want to go back and ride this area. As you see, yeah, this is like an ATV trail, but they're not that used, so you're riding along and it feels more or less like single track, to tell you the truth. And it's bumpy, so there's some challenge to it, and there's really steep climbs and a variety of terrain. And later on in the video, you'll see, like, I touch on some single track, and the single track is actually really epic. So you could go down there from Colorado Springs or Denver area to Saguache and actually camp. There's also a motel in town. Make sure you book it ahead of time, because it is like 1 or 2 motels, and they're small complexes, or what do you want to call them, motels, so there's not many rooms. So as you see, then you come up above tree line, and it's just, these trails are just not that used, so it's great. You're like the only people out there. Now this is 2011. I don't know, I haven't been back. Maybe it's drastically used now, I don't know. I just think because where Saguache, Colorado is, not many people actually probably go there, and they don't go there for the day. You're gonna have to camp, pretty much. That you are going to have to camp, right, if you go down there. So a lot of people might overlook that area. And there's a lot of good single track. There's a lot of ATV trails and Jeep roads. So there's a lot of good stuff that doesn't really get used all that much. Like I said, I definitely want to go back there. Here's a hill climb. We're going up, up, up. We're going to go way above tree line. That peak way in the distance, that hump. I think we end up going up there, I do believe. But these are all legal trails, mind you. All legal trails. This event was, stay the trail, raise money, raise awareness for trail groups, trail organizations like Colorado Trail Preservation Alliance, and then local groups, what have you. Although we were an adventure and dual sport group, Rocky Mountain Adventure Riders, hence the name, a nonprofit organization. And this is the early days. This is like the second event, and it's growing, I'm guessing like 30, 40 people showed up to this. Maybe it was even more. I don't remember. This is before I was asked to really be on the board of directors and, really take part in this new group. I had a lot of time on my hands. I saw that. So eventually, I think in 2012, I was basically asked, like, hey, can you help out on the board of directors? Because I was already helping out with the event, leading rides, arranging with companies for door prizes, and at that time we mainly did door prizes, but then later on we turned that into auction items, because why give everyone something? We should, give some door prizes, low value items, but also have some high ticket items that we could auction off and raise more money with to give to the various trail groups. Makes sense, right? Otherwise, you give somebody a $400 jacket, they're going to probably put it on eBay at that time and selling it and pocketing the money. Sell it for $300 and pocket the money. Whereas, auction off that, $500 jacket, whatever it is, or $600 jacket, and maybe you only bring in $300 or $400, but that's more money to the trail groups. And honestly, the companies that donate that stuff, apparel especially has a huge markup. So you end up, they're doing okay because they write off on their taxes, and you're doing a good thing by giving extra money to various groups. And you notice, like, you get up here and there's not much wear, right? It's kind of grassy. Even these areas, it's a legit trail. It's rocky, so it's somewhat challenging still, and it's not overused. It's great. I'm telling you, these trails are fabulous. They are amazing, and I really want to get back down there because it's a lot of fun. Now, as I was saying, Rocky Mountain Adventure Riders, man, it was a great group. I don't think anyone's handling it anymore. One guy, Matt, he kind of moved away overseas to Germany, and so I left because I was just busy with my startup company, Trail Taker, and then Matt had to go overseas, kind of handed it off to a couple guys, and we did one in Gunnison was the last one, and that's all I've heard about it. I don't think Rocky Mountain Adventure Riders is around anymore. Definitely no one was there to maintain the website, which was all me. Facebook page, which was all me. I don't know. Facebook page might still be there. I really don't know, but all the social media was myself, right? I created all that. I was handling all that, and as soon as I stepped aside, those guys didn't have time for that crap. And excuse my language, but they didn't have time for that stuff. So I think it just slowly went away, and without the money coming in, who's paying the bills on, the domain name, the web hosting, and all that, right? So, we brought in a lot of money. So for a short period of time, we did great things, and we raised a lot of money and a lot of awareness, and got cities, towns to really like dual sport and adventure bikes, which they didn't understand were different than dirt bikes, so they liked dirt bikes at that time. And that's how Silverton, Colorado was okay with, hey, let's pass and legalize riding into town for dirt bikes, for OHVs. And they did that because of us, but slowly people ruined that. A lot of side-by-sides started speeding, doing stupid stuff, and probably riders too. And they said, enough is enough, which is sad. We did a lot of work and raised a lot of awareness. This trail was pretty epic. So this is one of the single tracks. It was hard to find, and I can find it today, thank goodness to Co-Treks, but it's way out there, and you could tell not many people rode this trail. This was actually my second day riding this trail. These videos are a little out of order, but I called this one, the first one, the Huff and Puff ride, because we huffed and we puffed. So there's a guy on like a 990. I don't think I get a close-up of his bike, but I do get a close-up of the KLR 650 with us. That guy was epic. Typical. We're all in like adventure gear. Like, I'm wearing Climb the car pants at the time with a Core-Tech jacket, dirt bike helmet, gloves, my boots, and I think the other guy's wearing the whole, adventure outfit on the KLR 650. I think the guy in the 990 was the only one in like a jersey and riding pants and boots and helmet, a lot lighter stuff. But he was a really good rider, and he kind of just took off on this single track, and man, it blew my mind. I wonder whatever happened to him. I think he lived in Grand Junction. So, hey, if you're watching this, dude, reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, or my own website, meekerextreme.com. And yeah, check me out. Yeah, see, here's his bike. It was about the only time I saw him. He gets off, he opens the gate. He's just hauling butt on that KTM 990. I believe that's what that was, the 990 at the time. And yeah, he was a good rider. He was younger than me. I would have been 35 at this time. So, you know, I'm thinking I'm usually the youngest person at events, and he was younger than me, and man, he was doing awesome. It's you know, when you're younger, you got a lot of you know, energy to keep going. So we got the KLR 650 in me. We're trying to get him through stuff. He was just breaking down into tears. This trail gets harder and harder, progressively harder as you go. And it's kind of funny because he's breaks a foot peg off, and at the end of the day, he's basically every time we stopped just to take a little break, he would totally derobe because he was just so hot in that adventure gear. And then it took forever to get going. We got to the point where it's turning dusk, and we're like, dude, the bears are getting. So he would roll up, and we would take off. We just had to start doing that to push him because we had to get out. There was a point where he was like, I just, you know, I'm gonna die. I'm staying here, and whatever, you know, come back for me tomorrow. And it's like, no, dude, you're coming out. So yeah, there was rock sections that were pretty gnarly that we had to get him over. I mean, I had to get over stuff too. I would say I was a little bit more competent as a rider. There was blown out sections where we had to skirt around and not fall in the creek, and we came across pack horses. And actually, I kind of said I did this trail twice. Really not. The Huff and Puff ride was picking up where I left off on the We Don't Know ride, and I'll explain that later when we get to that video. But it was a ride where my brother-in-law signed me up on the whiteboard, and I said, I don't know where I'm going. But I have an idea because I used to go to these events and I would study maps, right? This is before Coach Rec, so I would take out the paper Forest Service map, and for weeks on end, I would look around at trails and think of routes I would want to do, loops I would want to do, and I'd memorize those, and when we went out, that's basically kind of, I had an idea of a route, right? So I had all these trails at that time memorized in my head, like, okay, we go down this road. Like, I wouldn't remember the names, but I remember if we go down this road, we hang a left, you know, we go past 3 other roads, we hang a right, we go over here, should be an ATV trail, you know, go down that. Oh, so this is another day. So those are riders showing up to a mine. This is show you another epic single track. This one's actually north of Salatch. And so you kind of had a miner that was illegally mining. Forest Service knew about it. He threw rocks at people. Not our group, but another group. And they talked to him, and he calmed down. But I'm sure he's passed on now because, like I said, this was like 12 years ago. So the 12 years ago, I'm sure he's gone because he was either in his upper 60s or 70s then. So I'm sure he's not like in a mine. But he kind of thought that road was his. It's not. He even had a gate. Forest Service knew about him, but they didn't care. It shows you weird stuff. They don't care about that, but heaven forbid if we make an illegal single track, then that's big news, right? They're going to ticket you. But some guy illegally mining, they know about, but they're just like, you know, that's crazy old Jim, whatever. And to a certain extent, they're right. He's going to pass on, right? I'm sure he's gone by now. So it'd be interesting to go back to this place. But this one, the locals called Skinny Trail, rightfully so. You see, it's a tire width. And it becomes somewhat exposure, and kind of how that fisheye effect, it was really skinny with drop off. So I think it's doing it pretty justice here with the camera lens. At least I can recall it being pretty gnarly, you know. And we're kind of cruising through, and we don't know what to expect. We were just told about this trail called Skinny Trail. Well, let's go check it out. You know, that's what dual sport riding's about. It's not just to stick to roads. It's go explore, like anything else. Push your boundaries, push your endurance. And a lot of dual sport riders and adventure riders do have good endurance. You know, that's where I built up my endurance. You know, we're kind of here. We're kind of like, interesting. You know, see that was Buddy Todd. He's on a 690. So he's on 690. I'm on my XR 650R. I'm not sure what some of the other guys are on. I don't recall the bikes necessarily. I think the guy, Kevin, I think was his name, on the KLR is with us that day. Another guy that was from Florida. I don't remember his name. I think he was a nurse. He was a hoot to just spend time with, party with, and just ride with. Yeah, that's the KLR 650 dude. He's a pharmacist in Texas. This is the guy, says from Florida. Guy, I wish I could remember his name. Good guy. Rode with him a couple times at events, and that was it. And then Todd on the 690 that he borrowed from Matt, another guy. And yeah, Todd totally wrecked that bike like the third day or something. That video is in here. It's hilarious. But see how skinny this trail is. So Watch, Colorado has epic trails. I mean, look at this. I would love to go back just to see if this trail is more used, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So I think, like most people, probably don't know about this trail, and it's a legal trail, like I told you. And there are definitely other social trails in the area. Well, local told us there's one down a valley, and maybe I could find that again, but we didn't go explore it. But he was like, I've been riding it all my life for 30-40 years, and I'm gonna ride it until I die. And that's what I tell the Forest Service. Hey, I'm not gonna argue with somebody like that. I know somebody's gonna get upset and be like, oh, stay the trail and this and that. A guy that's older has been riding something for 30-40 years. That trail's been around a long time. It's probably always been a trail. And maybe back in the day it was like a exploration trail or something back when they were looking for minerals, and it had always just stayed a trail. But heaven forbid if you go ride that stuff, right? But look how narrow this is. It really is that steep. And we actually had a guy, and no, unfortunately I did not catch it because this is back during the days of, hey, I need to change out the GoPro battery, So I had to remember to check that occasionally. I didn't always hear if it shut off. And the guy in front of me from Florida, he actually caught one of his bags. When I get close to him, you'll notice he has like little Tour-Tech saddlebags. He caught one of those on a log, and luckily his bike kind of stayed on the trail, but he tumbled all the way down the hill, bouncing off some logs and rocks. He was okay. He was bruised. Luckily, he was okay, as we were in the middle of nowhere. And gotta note, this is before Co-Trek, so I got my Garmin Zumo there. That gives me an idea, but I don't have any GPX tracks. I'm not following any tracks. I just saw on the map, hey, there's a single track. We were pointed to this area, go down the road, there's this crazy miner, just go through the gate anyways, or around the gate, which we went around it. And at the end, there's, this single track, which you saw, single track, and we jumped on it, and it went down. Eventually, you get down into some wetter lands, and I can remember some water crossings, and I think the trail continued off to the left or something, but we went right and found a road and bailed off to the road, went back to the highway, and was able to take the highway back to Swatch. That's the thank goodness when you're over your head on a dual sport bike, because you're plated. So if you get out to a road, and like me with a 6.5 gallon Cherbus tank on the XR650R at this time, I had no problems with fuel, and most likely it was full because I didn't know what the adventure was going to be that day. Man, it's so narrow. This is like, I'm reliving this, and it's like I was there yesterday. I remember this perfectly. So yeah, I can find this area, and there is a group of guys I always ride with. They know who they are. We need to go hit this up. Let's get a modern video. Let's get some, image stabilized 4K video with good picture quality of this area. Right now, I'm probably running, I have to be running the GoPro 2 Hero Black, and I typically filmed at that time at like 720, 60 frames a second, whereas, the 1030 or 1080 by 30 frames a second, I was like, I want the faster frames, right? And which works nowadays, because now I'm just doing this I'm doing it at 4K, so it's upscaling it, but I'm also doing the 24 frames, so I can lose frames, and it's not going to make it funky, not going to make it shouldn't be making the video too funky, but upscale for you all that are on those, watching these on your TVs at home, or bigger computer monitors that we have. Like, I have a 4K monitor. I'm fortunate enough to have one, so I don't know the size. I think it's like 32 inch on my desk here, and it makes the picture quality really good for when I watch videos. I watch a lot of videos on my PC versus on my TV or phone, but I do watch quite a few on my TV in bed at night, what have you nowadays. But I don't have ads on my computer, so that's kind of nice. So, watching on the TV, you're getting a lot. I get the ads, and I don't mind them, and I hit the skip button, and that's fine. The creators get a little money. You got these, shale piles that are slick and annoying, but it's narrow, it's steep. Your tire has to get grip. Of course, we're all on like dual sport, so I'm sure I'm running 15, 20 psi in the rear tire because, this was back when I was a newer rider. That's tend to be what I ran. I might not even have tubeless at this point. I don't know quite when I put in tubeless. I did put it in pretty early, but I'm not quite sure when. I might have did that in 2012. This still might be me on tubes, but I don't know. I don't remember. That was too long ago exactly when I got the tubeless system. The first system I bought, and then later on they started supporting me because I was putting miles on this bike. I mean, my typical outing locally on the XR650R was 300 miles. So I went out to ride. I would do 300 miles. So I was doing a mix of pavement, dirt road, and then trails, to make up a huge loop. And I would do runs from Monument, Colorado out to Hartselle, Colorado on dirt and all the way back. And I'd go out there, get out there for lunch, and then come all the way back. I don't know. It would take me, at my top pace, probably a couple hours to get out there only, because I knew the areas where I could just get on a dirt road and do 80, 90 miles an hour, even 100 miles an hour on the XR650R, just blasting down a dirt road. I was a lot more ballsy then. For high speed, I love my high speed. I love the torque of the XR650R. It actually made single track pretty easy. I kind of wish I still had the bike. As you know, I auctioned it off and gave the funds, proceeds, which was like $3,200, I believe, to motorcycle relief projects during the early days of, the pandemic, I guess I'll say, because I don't know which words YouTube searches for speaking. So we don't want the whole little advisory at the bottom saying, oh my God, he talked about this. That's all I said. Pandemic, it happened, But early days of that, I auctioned that off, got that to the guy. He got the money and gave that to motorcycle relief projects. And, it helped fund them. It really helped fund them because they had the problem of no one was doing anything. No one was giving money. People were kind of keeping their money. So hopefully people kind of loosened up. Even if it's a tough time, try to give a few bucks. It really helps those organizations out, especially when they do good things for veterans with PTSD. So always try to support those groups. I know tough times can happen, and maybe usually give $100, even if you gave like 10 or 20, it helps out because they still have insurance costs, they have the bikes, they got events they're trying to do, and when it cuts drastically back, that really affects them, right? And corporations cut back, and if you're a corporation, same thing. Yeah, maybe you gave $5,000, well, maybe you just cut back and give them a couple grand, but at least it kind of keeps them going, keeps them afloat, right, through that tough time where you can eventually step your donation back up to really help them. So this is where Todd's actually second crash. I have these out of order, but we're going at a good clip. Man, he goes down on this corner on the 690 that he's borrowing from Matt. The fender was already ripped off earlier, so don't worry about that. That had already been ripped off. You'll see the first crash coming up here next. But yeah, it was funny. He goes down pretty hard again. Dust, cloud. Okay, here we are for the first crash. We're hauling. He's way up there, right? He likes to go fast. I like to go fast. We're leaving everyone else behind. They're way back there. They're nowhere to be found. And man, he goes down. You're gonna have to watch close. Up ahead. I'm sorry. We didn't have image stability. He had went down. It was that quick. Not a big dust cloud because no dust, but boom, down, ripped off the front fender. I don't know if there was anything else. I know there was other damage. I can't remember what, but Todd's such a great guy. So he borrowed the bike from Matt. This was like new bike to Matt, but Matt gave him a cost. I don't know how much it was. I don't think he ever said, but Todd just gave him the money. No questions asked. And, he was okay with hey, I broke your bike. This is what happened. Here's the money. I'm so sorry. And yeah, Todd, very nice guy. He's out of Tennessee. Haven't seen him in quite a few years. I know he's still around. I think my brother-in-law is going to get together with him this summer, actually, for an event out east. So yeah, that'd be good. It'd be good to hear how Todd's getting along. Here's the actual from the Huff and Puff where the video started, the single track. Well, not where it started, but you know, when we got to the single track, this is where I was called the We Don't Know ride. It's called that because my brother-in-law again signed me up on the whiteboard, and I was like, I'm leading a group. Well, I don't know where I'm, because everyone asks like, where are we gonna go? I'm like, we don't know. And this has a little better footage because there was actually a huge group of us. So first day. And this is the first half of where the Huff and Puff ride then picked up to finish off what we didn't finish this day. This day we got only so far because this was such a rough section and it's raining and made it harder. You know, things were slick, water crossing, trail finding. There was a lot of trail finding early on through this big like field area, which was kind of marshy. So first we tried to just go across it because we couldn't even find the trail, and then we realized, okay, that's not working out. There's all these like water crossings, so we had to go back and look. And eventually we found a spot that looked like other people had been, so we felt confident, okay, we must be on the trail now, and the map shows it over here, so okay, this must be it. It was poorly marked, but this trail probably gets maybe one person a year. I'm serious. It's out there in the middle of nowhere. So as far as motorcycles go, no one probably knows about this area, so I'd love to go back there. So those that know me, those that ride with me, let's go hit this stuff this summer because I'd like new video of this area. And I can remember back then struggling. Half of it had to do with rain. The other half had to do with, you know, just not being an experienced rider on a bigger bike with a group of people. We're probably all right here in the same category. There's 3 of us that are on XR 650Rs with 6.5 gallon tanks. I'm one of them. This guy next to me, Bernie, is one of them. My brother-in-law, who is still needs to come, he's on one. So we had 3 big bikes. It was a thing for a while. There was a lot of us that had these XR 650Rs locally, so it was kind of funny, you know. We go ride, and we're all on these big thumpers. Ooh, he goes down. But here's my brother-in-law. He has like the tall ATV bars on it because when he stood up, he felt more comfortable standing. He swore by that. I don't know. I got on his bike, and I just felt like a kid with my like ape hangers. It just felt too weird to me. But a tall guy, so he said when he was standing, it felt great. Yeah, you know, and we had our bike set up more for dual sport riding with the racks and what have you. And, you know, I had the whole Acewell computer and the Dakar kit, which was headlight and battery all in one, turn signals. And I had the, like, dual fender. That red part could come off and just the Super Motard white part would stay because I actually had a set of Super Motard rims that came with the bike. And I think, like, I've only paid, like, $2,200 for the bike, I think. I don't remember. I did feel like Graham Jarvis here, you'll see in a few minutes, I get all set up on these rocks to go across. Everyone's getting stuck over here, and I was just like, well, I want to feel like I'm a pro and try to go across the rock. And I actually made it across and avoided the whole getting stuck thing, and I thought I was like the baddest thing around because I did that. Now, you know, I could probably go either way. It wouldn't really matter. I wouldn't get stuck. I'd just go right through it, you know. Momentum is key. You learn that with riding. Momentum is key. See, we kind of put sticks there at this point because people were getting stuck in. I'm on this rock balancing now. If you go back in the video, you'll see where I'm at. And, you know, I just motor right across. I'm like, yeah, man, I made it. Yeah. I just thought I was the baddest thing. Because everyone's getting stuck. And that's why they put the twigs there to kind of not sink in, right? It was getting worse and worse for each person. And again, this was trail finding. We had to figure out our way through all this. And it was just great stuff. It was just amazing. Really enjoyed the time in Salatch and Rocky Mountain Adventure Rider events and riding trails like these. And I would say this is some of the most memorable stuff I had ever ridden. I don't know if it's with a group of guys because it rained, the event itself, or just because I was new to single track, so I just thought it's the best. I think even if we went back, guys would be like, wow, that was a hard trail. Again, it's a trail that's in the middle of nowhere that has no rhyme or reason. So if you're looking for single track, you're going to be like, well, that's an out and back trail for me. What's that going to, people aren't going to like ride around necessarily. I know guys that like single track and they just want to stay on single track. Like, go down there. You got to help out. So, as the roto pack's going, true dual sporter, and we're all wearing, of course it's raining, so we're all geared up, but this is how everyone would be geared even if it was sunny, because this is what we would all wear, the whole dual sport adventure ride. My brother-in-law goes down, and really I was far ahead of his probably skill level at this point when I'm watching him like just fall down and know how far he got before he moved out of Colorado and where I'm at now, and it's like, wow. Okay, so this is kind of funny. So that trail took us to an area where there was a gate. The map shows stay down, at least it looked like. We never saw a split. So we end up kind of like through this gate, and it's unlocked, and we go, and there's many different houses. First house has no one. We go up to that house. That old guy tells us to go over to this house. We go over to this house, and the gate for the road is locked. So that was everything. We couldn't just leave out of the road. So as we go back by this first house we passed, that's newer, this cabin, more of a cabin than a house. The plate on the truck was from Michigan. This lady's like all friendly, like, oh, you just go back there. Oh, I don't know how you missed it. It's back there. You hang a right and see, you go up a ridge and you're going to go up and around. That's what she's telling. So we end up going back, and what happened was somebody had purposely knocked down the sign, probably one of those property owners, and threw it in the bush. Well, we kind of put the sign back up, and that made us be correctly, and we thanked her for her time and her patience, and if we disturbed anything, horse or anything, we're so sorry, but she was so friendly, unlike the other guys that wanted nothing to do with us, told us to leave their land. Well, the other guy pawned us off on the second guy, and then he was all defensive and yelled at us and said he didn't care that people needed gas and needed to get out. And yeah, he was just a total ass. So, we could have died. I mean, you should be helping people, right? In certain instances, it's your duty to help somebody, especially when they're in trouble. But whatever, I digress. It was a fun time, good event. I wish Rocky Mountain Adventure Riders was still around. So y'all take care, stay well, stay safe, my friends, and get out there and ride. Bye.